Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
It's a great Thursday morning here on Good Morning NFC East. Jeff Kerr here with Tone the Shields. And look, I'm going to be in a really good mood, Tone, as long as the basketball team I help out keeps winning, because we are 2-0. We shot 60% last night, and we won 93-41. So I'm in a pretty good mood.
Yeah, the word around town is you guys are running up the score. What's going on, Jeff?
Running up the score. more of just shooting the lights out, Tone. I mean, okay, so this is our stats for 2 games. We are 35 of 75 from 3.
Wow.
I don't think
brother numbers.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to keep up all year, but hey, you never know. I mean, we're averaging 86.5 points per game, which is insane for a high school team.
Yeah, I was just about to say, how many points are you guys averaging? You were telling me off air that you guys shoot a lot of threes.
Oh yeah, we literally are like the Golden State Warriors. It's just run the tempo up, get an open look, and fire down, baby. If you don't think a 3-pointer, you got a problem. You need to be a shooter on our team.
Hey, these days you got to go with the trends of you got to go with the trends of the sport.
Yeah.
And speaking of trends of the sport, when it comes to the NFL, it seems like the trends that we're seeing is this Vic Fangio style of defense. According to my guy, John McMullen, who does an amazing job covering this league, he's an Eagles insider for JAKIB Sports and Sports Illustrated. He always pontificates. That's a word he loves to use. I learned that word from him, by the way. Shout out to John. He always talks about how most teams in the NFL, at least half of the teams in the NFL, deploy this Vic Fangio style of defense. And it's not really the most aggressive defense unless you have the front four to get home on a regular basis. It's not really a blitz heavy style of a defense. And I was reading an article from Fox News' Scott Thompson. Shout out to him for writing a really good article. He was essentially covering Brian Dawkins, who was at an event for the USAA, and essentially he talked about getting his defense. He gave plenty kudos to the team, showed a lot of love to the team. Said the team's doing great. He knew they would be good, but he didn't expect them to be this good, this fast. So, he was pleasantly surprised with the team. But he spoke on getting his defense, Jeff, and he spoke about how even despite them being dominant in a lot of areas, despite them being ranked highly in a lot of areas, so on and so forth, there's only a couple things he would like them to slightly improve on or do a little bit more of. That being, blitzing a teeny bit more, being more creative with it, and being a more consistent run defense. So, again, let me preface this with saying Brian Dawkins, in no shape, way, or form, is criticizing the team. This team is doing really well, and anything you might have to say about this team constructively may be seen as a nitpick. So, look, man, this team's doing really well, and there's only so much that you can really say about them. But, just to add some context to it, the Eagles are a team that blitz at about a 21% rate per game. That's about middle of the pack of the NFL, right? And he would like to see a more improved and consistent run defense, more blitzes, so on and so forth. But the Eagles are ranked second in the NFL behind the San Francisco 49ers in terms of defense, as far as yards allowed and points per game. And like I said, the middle of the pack in terms of blitz percentage. So I have to ask you this. We know Jonathan Gannon can be passive at times. Last year, we saw him be passive towards a lot of high-profile quarterbacks, and he always sent the dogs out for lesser quarterbacks. I'm not a fan of that thought process, but my question for you is, because Gannon tends to play a passive style against these top quarterbacks, could that passiveness cost the Eagles in the playoffs when the competition is taken to another level?
See, this is why I get really pissed off when people criticize good defenses. This bothers me because blitzing, you know the old song War? What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. That's blitzing. It is not good for any. You want man-to-man coverage? You want to blitz in zone coverage? Fine. Enjoy 50-yard touchdowns if that's what you want. Like, if that's the type of defense you want, fine. I don't know what people want from this defense anymore. They're first in the league in yards per play allowed. They're second in the league in sacks. They have the highest, the best opponent's passer rating in the NFL. They're one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. I just don't know what people want anymore. Like, who are we preaching to? Are we preaching to the lowest common denominator here that wants the Eagles to blitz? Yeah, all these wonderful Eagles games I used to hear about as a kid. The body bag game. The dominant game against Houston on Monday Night Football. I got a fun story about the body bag game and how much they blitzed. Yeah, they beat Washington pretty good. 5 weeks later, they play them in the playoffs and got their ass whooped by that same team. So I don't understand why fans want to go back to these glory days when you have Reggie White and Clyde Simmons and Eric Allen and Seth Joyner and all studs, by the way, all absolute studs. This is what bothers me about that. As good as those teams were, as great as that defense was, they did not win jack shit. So
it's so interesting you said that, right?
To me, it's a disappointment. Like, I wish this defense had those players, and this defense is really good. I wish they had those players, and I'd love to see how good Reggie, Clyde would be, a four-man front, Seth Joyner playing in this defense. Like, that's what I would want to see, because I think they would suit today's NFL just as well as they suited today's NFL 30 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. You said something really interesting that takes me to my next point. You said the fact that these teams that did all this blitzing, but especially back in the day, didn't really win anything, in terms of the Philadelphia Eagles, right? And let me just bring it to the forefront. Let me just bring a full circle to 2022. I want you to note that the teams that blitzed the most, and again, this is in no way us going at Brian Dawkins. Brian Dawkins is a legend. He's a Hall of Famer. Again, he's in love with this team right now. But he was asked a question and he just said, I just would like a little bit more creativity on the blitz side. That's all. But again, I want to make it clear that in no shape, way, or form is Brian Dawkins going at the Eagles. I want to make sure the fans understand that, right?
Yeah, he actually talked to my buddy Jordan DeJaney. We've had him on the show.
Okay.
And he was raving about the secondary too. So I mean,
right, exactly. So Brian Dawkins has, Brian Dawkins has always been an embarrassment for the Philadelphia Eagles, no matter where he is. So shout out to him. Actually, one of my favorite players of all time. Actually, my favorite Philadelphia Eagle of all time, but I digress. Let's keep this in mind, right? When it comes to blitzing, yes, the Philadelphia Eagles are middle of the pack in terms of blitz percentage per game. But let's put it in perspective. The teams that blitz the most in the NFL are actually some of the worst teams in the NFL.
Yeah, they are.
So blitzing doesn't translate to success. Let me rattle some of these teams off who blitz the most. The team that blitzed the most in the NFL by a long shot, that's the New York Giants at 41%.
And Wake Martindale teams always blitz. So
and that's his style, right? But this is where it gets really interesting. Yes, the Giants are 7-4, 7-4-1, something like that. Like, that's their record, right? So they're considered to be a good team right now. But let me just go beyond that, right? The teams that blitz the most. The Green Bay Packers, they're terrible this year. The Arizona Cardinals, they're terrible this year. The Denver Broncos, they're terrible this year. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they're mediocre this year. Detroit Lions, mediocre. Los Angeles Chargers, mediocre. And then you finally come across a good team, the Miami Dolphins. And still, their defense is very suspect. Everyone knows that. And then you got the Carolina Panthers, mediocre. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, mediocre. And then you got the next best team, the Chiefs. And then after that's the Raiders. So my point is, the teams that blitz the most, for the most part, are not good teams. So the amount that you blitz doesn't automatically equate to winning. Right, Jeff?
See, yeah, that's what I've been trying to tell people. Like, so this is a perfect example. I had to do Chiefs Cardinals week 1. And keep in mind, this is week 1. This is after the Eagles game. I had a doubleheader. I watched the Cardinals do 2 of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Blitz Patrick Mahomes. That's a no-no. And go man coverage against Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes tore that team apart for 5 touchdown passes. It was one of the funniest things I ever seen. And I'm like, are you just going to stop blitzing now? Are you going to stop playing man? Because this clearly isn't working. He's torching you. Oh, by the way, that was his first game without Tyreek Hill, with all these new receivers. And you didn't know what the Chiefs offense was going to do. And yet he still was able to torch him. It was like taking candy from a baby, honestly. Like the Cardinals defense, it's funny because I like Vance Joseph as the defensive coordinator. I think he gets the most out of a lot of those guys, but it's not a good unit. And the fact that you had to resort to blitzing one of the best quarterbacks in football and just let him beat you all day long, what does that say? I know why Jonathan Gannon doesn't blitz, because you get beat when you blitz, and you get beat badly. Like, even the worst quarterbacks in this league can make throws. It's a different NFL now. It's not where you got, average quarterbacks around. I'm trying to think of names here, just off the top of my head.
Brock Purdy.
Not even Brock Purdy. I'm like going like 90s here. Like Wade Wilson. Okay. Like guys like him, who can't beat you with his arm. So, like today, everybody thinks Jared Goff's a terrible quarterback, right? I think he's average, but you put Jared Goff, he's going to beat you. So why would you want to do that? I just don't understand this whole blitzing thing when he is getting home. They're second in the league in sacks. They're 7th in the league in pressures. They get home. Like, the Eagles do get home, and that's the style now. It's not send an extra rusher. You need all the – and by the way, receivers are better than ever now. So you need as many guys back there as you can. And for guys that get upset about them playing conservative or passive or sticks defense or whatever, that's just the way the game is now. It's you have to force the quarterback to make a mistake. And Dawkins said this too to Jordan. You know why they're really good? They do something a lot of defenses don't do. They generate turnovers. And he said it's more than just interceptions. It's forced fumbles. They force the opponent to make a mistake. There's a reason why they're number 1 turnovers this year. And it's just because they know how to catch a football.
Yeah, absolutely. Overall, I actually think that Philadelphia Eagles defense, there's certain moments where you're like, I would have blitzed there, or hey, I would have did this, I would have did that.
Or why did they play so far back on this?
Yeah. My biggest issues with the Philadelphia Eagles defense has always been why DBs are so far back rather than how often they blitz, because there's a lot of talent in that front 7. And again, Jonathan Gannon is blitzing more than he did last year. And that's because he has more talented guys on the back end. So, I mean, look, every play can't be a blitz. I'm a fan of timely blitzes, though. I'm a fan of blitzing a quarterback 3rd and long. You know what I mean? So, you can
still get beat on 3rd and long.
No, you still can. You still can. But it has to be well placed, in my opinion.
Here's another reason why I don't like blitzing anymore. Tackling in the NFL is atrocious. I don't know where these guys learn how to tackle. I learned how to tackle correctly at 10 years old.
Let's be honest. It's harder to play defense now more than ever. They're not letting these guys put hands and feet on these offensive players. They're trying to protect the product, and that's the offenses.
And these guys also don't learn to tackle correctly either at a young age. It's more of boom, 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 shoulder. That's not tackling. Tackling is rapid people. But you're right. Like, anytime you touch somebody, it's a penalty. Like, here's the other problem with blitzing. When you're blitzing, you're going full force at the quarterback, right? What if you hit him in an awkward way? That's 15 in the first down. Do you really want that?
No, you're right. You're right. So yeah, blitzing, comes with its own set of advantages and its own set of disadvantages for sure. But ultimately, again, this Philadelphia Eagles defense, they're ranked second in yards per game. They're ranked second as far as points allowed behind the San Francisco 49ers. They lead the league in turnovers. I believe they're second in the league as far as sacks, like you said, or top 5 in sacks. So again, the bottom line is, no matter what people may feel or think about this defense, what they need to do more of, what they need to do less of, the results are the results. So
If you want to
transition into
complain about something on the Eagles, right? If you really want to complain about something on the Eagles, complain about special teams.
Absolutely. And yes, and last week or this past Sunday against the Titans was their best game by far this season. So we'll see if they're able to maintain that level of consistency on the special teams. Moving the conversation forward, you brought up something behind the scenes as well that I think deserves to be talked about. There's been a rumor circulating via PFT, Pro Football Talk, and I actually am a fan of Pro Football Talk. I like Mike Florio's program. I like his writing, so on and so forth.
By the way, I love Mike Florio, but man, sometimes he's got to stay off Twitter.
like most people. But before we bring up our guy, the gentleman, the scholar, Mark Farzetta, before we bring him to the forefront, he tweeted that last year, and I'm going to paraphrase his tweet, but basically he was saying that last year when Odell Beckham Jr.'s market dried up or sputtered out, all of a sudden the Rams came in and swooped them up and they won the Super Bowl. This year, OBJ's market is starting to sputter because of medical leaks about his medical history and that knee. Don't be surprised if the Eagles sweep in. So that was pretty much the gist of his tweet. I don't really believe that the Eagles need OBJ. There was a moment where I said, wow, that would be exciting to watch. But I'm not sure if it was you or someone else. Someone brought up a very interesting point. The fact that when you bring OBJ in, you can't help but to throw him the ball. You feel the obligation to throw him the ball. So, I'm curious to hear your perspective on the latest news and rumors and updates about Odell Beckham Jr.'s potential signing, and can you add more context to what's going on with that guy?
Yeah, here's my issue with Odell Beckham, and I kind of touched on this yesterday or Tuesday. I'm trying to remember when we talked about him at length, and he's such a me first guy, and I actually think what Kevin Boiler said to us was right yesterday. He'd be great in the Eagles locker room because they're winning. He's a great teammate when they're winning. But what happens when OBJ isn't relevant? Because I feel like this whole free agent tour is just a way for him to stay in the news because he knows he's not playing this year. And if he does play, he ain't playing until January. I mean, look, that's what I was saying with Dallas. It's week 14, so when are you playing? You're not playing Sunday. You're not playing the following Sunday. You might play on Christmas Eve, maybe, but how effective are you going to be, right? You're not going to be really anything to the playoffs if you're anything at all. I think he wants a deal for 2023. So maybe that's where that whole Eagles rumor comes in. I don't know, but Nick Sirianni said it best. I like the wide receiver room we have, and I'll just leave it at that. He didn't say yes, he didn't say no. So, again, I'm not a fan of him being here. I don't think the Eagles need him. I think Odell, I just don't think they need him. That's the bottom line. I know it's radio, JAKIB Sports Talk. We have to do it, right? But I don't think they need him.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. This team is already hitting on all cylinders, and I would hate to throw in a new cog that we would have to oil up or try to fit into the machine, right?
Boy, you love some cars, Tone the Shields.
Oh man, I wish I knew cars like my man Xander Kraus. That's the car guy. But again, bringing in a guy like OBJ, it comes with its own set of advantages, and it's a whole nother set of disadvantages. And I'll leave it at that. You guys, keep it locked on Good Morning NFC East. We need you guys to smash that like button. Continue to stay engaged in the content. Continue to comment below. Make sure you guys are subscribed to JAKIB Sports. We would appreciate all the love and support. The more you guys lock in, the more you guys support, the better the content will be, and the more you'll be able to see Jeff Kerr's beautiful face. Next up.
I don't know why anyone would want to see that. I mean, I think you just lost 10 people, Tone.
Oh, no, I think I just gained 20, Jeff. I think I just gained 20.
By the way, I want to ask you this before we go to the break. Are you a glass half empty or half full kind of guy? Because there's an analogy to that, by the way.
Oh, man, if I had to really be honest with myself, I have to be. I'm a glass empty kind of guy. I mean, glass half full kind of guy.
Yeah, I am too. See, here's what I tell people who are glass half empty. Well, how can your glass be half empty? Think about that for a second.
Hold on, wait. That went over my head, Jeff. I'm not.
It's 7 in the morning here.
Went to undergrad for 4 years, so that sounds like a master's level joke.
Well, it is 7 in the morning too. I'm one of those people. I always try to puzzle people. I'm like, well, how can your glass be half empty? Like, think about that for a second, and then you're right, and everybody gives the reaction you do.
Okay, got it.
Think about like your glass can always be half full,
right? But if it's empty, there's nothing there.
Exactly. Thank you. I'm one of those people. I'm like, I don't know where that acronym came in, but it is kind of funny.
Oh, man. You guys are locked in on Good Morning NFC East. Next up, we have our guy, the man, the myth, the legend, one of the most beautiful bald-headed men you'll ever see, Mark Farzetta. This is Good Morning NFC East with Jeff Kerr, and I'm your guy, Tone DeShields II, the super producer. Keep it locked, you guys. You don't want to miss this.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Jim Gardner is an icon.
A Philadelphia treasure.
He's a mentor, a pace setter.
Jim is my North Star.
He's trusted, revered,
appreciated.
He is Action News.
He's compassionate, honest,
and fair.
He is extremely dedicated,
motivated, and always seeking the truth.
He's also funny. We are a team of many.
Jim Gardner is our leader, and we're lucky to have him.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
But look at Mark Farzetta having a shot glass here. Are you having your eggnog? I have to ask.
What the hell do you want? No, that's espresso. That's
Oh,
yeah.
Look at that.
Literally, yeah.
That's beautiful, Mark.
Yeah, that's my second of the day already.
So you're already fired up.
Yeah, I did my show, and then I was like, I'm going to need another shot of espresso. I got to do this again, and boom, here I am, my friend. And you really got my mind in a pretzel when it's come to the whole glass half full, glass half empty type thing. Because I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, it's half full when you're filling it. It's half empty when you're drinking it or you spilled it. And then I went into a different vortex. I don't know. My mind's in a pretzel. Hopefully I can concentrate on football. Anyway, good morning.
Yeah, so it's almost like blitzing, right?
Yes.
We want to talk about blitzing, and everybody goes, blitz, 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 blitz. Well, let me tell you something about when the Eagles blitz. The opposing quarterback is an 81.8 passer rating, which is third best in the NFL. So it is good they blitz, right? But it is 10 points higher than when they don't blitz. So I don't know what you want.
Yeah, but like, here's the thing. The Eagles didn't have a lot of sacks last week in blitzing scenarios. They had a lot of sacks because, like, the week before, they won their one-on-one battles. Brandon Graham won his one-on-one battle. Josh Sweat won. That's what gives a guy like Jonathan Gannon credence for his not as aggressive scheme or philosophy as a defensive coordinator. Now, the problem here is that Jalen Hurts is going to have something completely different to face this week when he faces the New York Giants defense, because they blitz almost more than anybody in the NFL. So I'm not so worried about with Jonathan Gannon. I've accepted it with Jonathan Gannon. Now I'm worried about it from the other side and how it's really I've gotten to the point where I look at the coordinators and the coaches. This is Brian Daboll versus Jonathan Gannon as far as I'm concerned, this matchup here, because everybody else I have a lot of confidence in doing their job. Jonathan Gannon, I do have a little bit of a concern about what his defense is going to do against Brian Daboll's offensive mind.
And that's the other thing, right? So we're looking at this from a totally different way. If the Eagles blitz a lot this week, you would figure Saquon Barkley, they're going to counter by running Barkley.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a week that you really don't want to blitz. I think this is a week where you kind of dare Daniel Jones to say, you know what? Go beat us. And we'll see if you could do it. Because, I had my buddy Kevin Boylard on yesterday. It comes on every Wednesday. And we were laughing. We don't think we could name 5 wide receivers in the Giants. And he's a Giants fan.
Slayton isn't making his way into the conversation there. Worried about injury with him? What's going on? Nothing?
He made the greatest joke I think ever yesterday. He goes, he said, the NFC East is loaded with receivers. AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin, and Darius Slayton.
That's some optimism right there. God.
Like he couldn't say it with a straight face. That was the best part.
Did it just pick him up in fantasy? Did he? Is that what he did there? No. Here's the thing, and I respect the Giants. I respect the turnaround that Brian Daboll's had with that team over the last couple over this year. The last couple of games, they haven't won in 5 weeks, which is insane. But for the most part this season, they've had a good year. Up until recently, they ran into some injuries and all that stuff. I respect that. But Daniel Jones does not scare me in the least. Of all the quarterbacks in the NFL, certainly of all the quarterbacks in the NFC East, the guy that scares me the least, the guy I respect the least, even less than Taylor Heineke, is Daniel Jones. Like, I know he's got a winning record against the Eagles. I know he's had good games against the Eagles. I know he's had some bad games against the Eagles as well. Daniel Jones doesn't scare me. If you allow the game plan to be Daniel Jones has to beat us, you win this game. And what goes in the Eagles' favor for this, and I know the Giants have had injuries on their offensive line. I know John Feliciano has missed a game or two. I know Evan Neal has missed some time as well, their right tackle. I know they have injuries on the defensive side of the football as well. But Saquon Barkley is averaging 2.8 yards per carry over his last 3 games. That's abysmal. He's had career worst day after career worst day when it comes to how he's been running the football. If the Eagles can somehow capitalize on that and keep the momentum that they had against Derrick Henry, then they're going to have a lot of success on both sides of the football. We're going to see a very similar game to what we saw last week against the Tennessee Titans. If they can mock that up again, make a guy like Daniel Jones beat you, then they're going to win this football game.
Yeah, the Giants have nobody on the interior on the offensive line that can protect anybody. Like, Nick Gates is eventually going to be the center of this team, I think, because they have to move Feliciano to the guard, and that's just not working out, but they don't have anybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody's hurt, and you're right. Like, Evan Neal was out a couple weeks. He's back now, but, I mean, really, on that offensive line, it's Andrew Thomas, and that's it, which is why I don't think the Eagles need to – they just need to generate pressure against this team. If they can't, then I'm going to be concerned.
Yeah.
They should be able to hold this team to under 17 points easily on Sunday.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they score about 20 points per game. That's what they average so far this season. But here's the thing that drove me crazy with Gannon when it comes to Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is one of those quarterbacks you could force into making a mistake.
And he won't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Gannon will not do it. That drives me bonkers. I don't like the idea. And this is my biggest gripe with Jonathan Gannon. I know most people like to use the buzzword aggressive, not aggressive enough, whatever. But it's the idea of forcing it's not like just the idea of getting the sack is great. But the idea of actually pressuring a quarterback is even better. Wink Martindale has that down pat for a team like the New York Giants and throughout his entire career as a coach in the NFL. Gannon needs to get with it a little bit when it comes to the idea of forcing a quarterback into making mistakes. Over last year, he did not do that with Daniel Jones. He allowed Daniel Jones to be comfortable. He did not rush the passer. He was not aggressive at all. You can force him into making mistakes by just applying that pressure, by sending a fifth man, sending a sixth man. Hey, let's go crazy. Send a sixth man. Go figure. Who would do that in the NFL? Only almost every other team. But when it comes to this, I think one thing he has to do is take a page out of Martindale's book and say, you know what? I can make Daniel Jones make a mistake in this. I'm not just going to wait for him to make the mistake. What I'm going to do in this particular game is make him make that mistake.
Yeah, and see, this is where I agree with you. I'm not a fan of blitzing, period. But there are certain teams I think you need to kind of do it. I think Sunday is one of those times because you know that their offensive line isn't good. And I think you can get away with sending. Daniel Jones is not going to beat you on 70 yards downfield.
Mm-hmm.
Not with that cast. Like, you have to say to yourself, I got Darius Slay. I got James Bradbury. Oh, by the way, this is a James Bradbury revenge game this week.
Oh, sure, certainly, yeah.
Yeah, so it's crazy to think it's week 14, but this is a week where I'm saying, you know what? I'm gonna. You're right. I think this is a good week where I'm gonna Wink Martindale you, and I am going to send an extra rusher. I'm gonna do a 5-man front. Because after I take Saquon Barkley out of the game, we're going to have some fun, and we're going to make Daniel Jones look like the terrible quarterback he probably is.
Uh-huh. Yeah, here's the thing, though. I agree with you. Let me get that out of the way. I don't think it's happening.
No, I don't think it is either.
But it's mostly because of that. It's because if I'm Jonathan Gannon and my philosophy is, hold on, I can have my corners back. I don't have to rush my linebackers. I just have my front four win their battles. If I can do that against a banged up or inferior offensive line and an inferior quarterback, I don't got to do anything. I can spell my guys the exhaustion of rushing. I can expel my guys with playing press coverage. Not that you really ever see them do that, but I can spell them from doing that in the game and have them sit back and wait for that interception or wait for that mistake because my front four is going to win their battle. So if I have confidence that Brandon Graham's going to win, Javon Hargrave's going to win, Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph, Fletcher Cox, if I have confidence, Hassan Reddick, if I have confidence those guys are going to win, I don't need to blitz. I don't need to be aggressive. I can just sit back and let those guys win those battles, and that'll be enough pressure for me. That'll be enough pressure for Daniel Jones. The problem was last year it was not. This year, hopefully it is.
Yeah. So if I have to criticize Jonathan Gannon, and there are a couple of things to criticize him for, like, I think they're too passive on certain situations. Like, do I want them to send more guys on the 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9? Sure. I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is the whole let's play 12 yards back on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9.
Definitely.
That's what I don't like, because then you're relying on actually making the tackle, or a lot of crazy things can happen. Like, play up. If you give up 20 yards, so be it. Don't give up 20 yards because you gave them, a couple yards of cushion. I don't like that. And the second thing is, if I have to sit in that press box and watch Hassan Reddick drop back in coverage, I lose my mind. Mm-hmm. He hasn't done it a lot recently, but he has done it this year.
I felt like the Commanders game, and I'm not just saying that because it was a loss, but I felt like it was the Commanders game that it was just like, he can be aggressive, please. That's what he's really good at. That's why I brought him here. When Hassan Reddick was brought in and he did his press conference, I forget who asked him the question, but he said that the question was, when are you at your best, basically? And I love that question because it allows the athlete to kind of tell you, if you don't see the coach using me like this, scream and yell for me, okay? Yeah. And he said, I like to play fast. I like to play downhill. I like to be aggressive. Like, let me go out there and play fast football. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. And then you see him drop back into coverage. And I'm like, did Jonathan Gannon not watch that press conference? Did he not see that? Here's what it does for me. Here's the analogy. It's not a glass half full or glass half empty analogy, but it's an analogy. Jonathan Gannon, to me, if he was a pitcher in baseball, he would just throw fastballs. He would just throw fastballs down the middle of the plate. You know why? Because it's hard to hit a baseball, and odds are you're not going to hit it out of the park, and it's not going to hurt you, because if you just get maybe if you throw it away, 100 batters, you're going to get 80 of them out. You're going to get 300 of them, or I'm sorry, 30 of them out. Like, it's hard to hit a baseball. Therefore, I'm not going to be aggressive and change my pitching. I'm just going to keep on throwing fastballs because it's hard to hit a baseball.
And you're right, because too much can go wrong if you throw that breaking pitch, because what if you hang the breaking pitch?
Right, exactly. Yeah, even more so, yes.
Yeah, so we do that in basketball, right? So everybody knows what we're going to do now. There's enough film on us. We shoot threes. Well, why don't they go inside? Why would I want to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I want to go inside? So, yeah, you're right. That's what he's comfortable with. But, by the way, I have to agree with your point on that question. What do you do best? I always tell people, if you want to get into journalism, if you want to get good answers from people, especially athletes, there's two questions. What do you do best? And what do you think you need to work on?
Mm-hmm.
It always works.
They're easy ones. But then, Jeff, every once in a while you get that. So what do you do best? And the guy's like, whatever the team needs. And I'm like, oh, God, boring. See ya.
Yeah, see, that's when you got to get creative. You got to reword it. I did that to A.J. Brown this year, by the way. I kind of tricked him, and he's like, oh, no, I know what you're doing. I said, man, you're too smart. I'm like, I think some of these guys are prepared for every single scenario they get now.
Certainly. And you know what the follow-up to that is? This is my downshift. What do you do best? Whatever the team needs. Okay, great. Where are you most comfortable? That's my go-to, right? That's my downshift question. Like, that didn't work. Mayday.
I asked one time what improvements you think you need to make to your game, and you said, well, I don't think I need to make any improvements. I said, well, you allowed the 90 passer rating last year, so you clearly need to make some improvements.
Nice. Well, it's always good when you have that number right there, just sitting there waiting for them to shoot you down your question, and you're just like, yeah, how about this? And they're like, God damn it.
Right, it's like, and the worst thing they hate is a non-professional athlete doing it to them.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. It's not their coach, and we still know what the heck's going on.
Exactly.
Oh man, Mark. But switching gears here a little bit. Brian Dawkins said earlier this week to Fox, again, he's talked to a bunch of people. He talked to my buddy Jordan DeJaney, but he said he would even like the Eagles to get a little more creative with their blitzes. It wasn't a bad thing. I thought it was constructive criticism, but I'm like, what do people want? And like, this is Brian Dawkins here. This guy forgets more about football than I know. I love Brian Dawkins, but I'm like, dude, you do realize, like, in games Jim Johnson blitzed you, that was when the Eagles technically got beat. Mm-hmm. Like, I think on the Joe Jaravicious play against Tampa, if I'm not mistaken, was a play he was blitzing.
Off the top of my head, I can't see the way the play started. I know how it ended.
I hate how it ended.
still running down the sideline. I've talked to former Eagles that played for Jim Johnson, and Dawkins is one of them. Brian Dawkins is one of them. Whether it's Billy Davis. Okay.
Oh God.
Yeah, you're welcome. Put that back in your head.
By the way, isn't Billy Davis still in the league? I'm trying to remember where he's at.
I think he's with the Cardinals.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. He went back to the Cardinals.
Yeah.
I think he's a linebackers coach or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Whether it was Billy Davis or whoever, the idea of blitzing and being aggressive just kind of wasn't there. They would have, or even Schwartz, even Jim Schwartz. The blitz wasn't there. The wide 9 was there with Billy Davis. The 3-4 under with Connor Barwin was there. But the idea of a blitz and disguising blitzes was not a thing. And Jim Johnson, we all know, we were spoiled by that man. If you grew up watching that era, which we did, that was the way you just thought it was done. And then we have these other guys come in that have this other philosophy, and that's not the way it's done anymore, because you need more guys back in coverage because of the pass-happy league that it's become. But instead of saying, you know what, because it's so pass-happy, that gives me more opportunities to get to the quarterback to force a mistake or to get a sack or to push him back, they say, no, I'm going to sit back and wait for that interception and wait for them to make that bad throw. So when I think about a guy like Jonathan Gannon, I think about his scheme, his philosophy, and how he doesn't disguise blitzes well, and he used the stats about when they blitz and when they don't blitz. It's all about not necessarily how often they blitz, but the style in which they blitz. Like, you don't see guys approach the line of scrimmage and then drop back, and then on the next play, approach the line of scrimmage as a linebacker, whether it's CJ Edwards or whoever, and then attack the quarterback. They don't disguise it well. Even on the delayed blitzes, the few that you've seen so far this season with TJ Edwards in the middle of the field, like only one really jumps to mind when I think about it. And he didn't get home on it, but at least he did it. It was at least an idea that Jonathan Gannon doesn't really present often to us as a fan base to watch every Sunday. But when you see him do it, you can see him have success if he keeps doing it because he'll get better at it. So it's one thing that I think when you talk to Brian Dawkins, you talk to Quentin Michael, for instance.
Yeah, he's
when
a
you
good
talk.
one.
When you talk to these guys, like I remember talking to Quentin Michael about it and be like, hey, so we sent 5 guys. And I remember Quentin Michael's exact words were, yeah, but those weren't really blitzes. And I'm like, wait, hold on a second. It's not really. He's like, that's only 5. That's not really a blitz. And I'm like, tell me you played in at least the Jim Johnson, Sean McDermott era without telling me you played in the Jim Johnson, Sean McDermott era. Like, that's the way you can describe it.
Yeah, so I watch a lot of old, I want to say like 90s Eagles, especially Dawkins' rookie year. And I remember Emmett Thomas. So they would send, I think it was like maybe 6 or 7 guys, and they send them all up the middle, right? And they forced Troy Aikman to roll outside and he just get rid of the football. That's not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
And I wish people would realize that. Now they go outside and they either A, take off, or B, there's someone wide open downfield. Like that's not a thing. And I kind of wish people would understand that. And I said earlier too, I would love to see, I know Seth Joyner is one of the biggest criticizers of Jonathan Gannon ever. I actually think Seth.
Oh, you don't say.
No, yeah. I would love to see Seth in this defense. I would pay huge money to see Seth in this defense because I think he'd be an absolute stud.
I think Seth Joyner would quit the team.
I
think he'd go through 3 weeks and be like, oh, no, man. And then he'd be out. Like, it would drive him crazy.
You know what
part of this defense.
You know what I think would drive him off? I think the minute he hits the quarterback, it gets 15 yards for just hitting the quarterback. I feel bad for a lot of those guys. It's such a different NFL now than when they played.
It's unfair. It's not to go down that road, but it is. I used to the joke used to be, soon they'll be wearing flags, and now I'm like, that's not really a joke. That's actually a pretty good suggestion. Because why am I injuring quarterbacks? Why am I even hitting quarterback this way? You can't land on a quarterback. What? Like, I'm literally tackling him. How am I supposed to? You're supposed to roll your body. We've talked about it before, Jeff, but like, I played the 1 year of freshman football for Archbishop Wood, right? You played 7 years. And it's like, even I, the biggest idiot in the world who couldn't tackle, there's like, you can't not put your weight on a guy. Like, it happens by default.
You have to do it. Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's bad when Andy Reid flips out. I mean, Andy don't flip out over anything.
Right, yeah.
He was going nuts in that Monday night game. And but so this is a funny story. My dad took me to see The Soul back in like 2004. We just wanted to see what arena football was like, right?
Okay.
Just out of curiosity. And we enjoyed it. It was fun. And my dad's like, you know what? The NFL is going to do something like this. You know that, right? It's going to be glorified arena football in about 10 years. Boy, did he hit the nail on hit the nail in the coffin.
Wow.
It literally is like glorified arena football now. Everything's about fantasy. Everything's about gambling. Everything's about, everybody likes 35 to 32 games, but the 10-7 games, you don't see anymore. That's terrible football. Like Ravens Broncos was terrible football, but 25 years ago, you loved a game like that.
I was probably a production assistant at that game for NBC. I was still in college, and I was probably running around behind the scenes doing stuff at that very game that you were at the very game that your dad dropped brilliance. And he's absolutely right. When you think about, like, I don't think a sport has changed more than football has changed in my lifetime. I mean, basketball, the style has changed in terms of, it's a 3-point league and all that, which I don't necessarily, I like the era that we grew up with in the 90s with that hard-nosed basketball. And when you shoot a 3, one good thing can happen. You hit the 3. When you drive the lane, 2 good things can happen. You could get somebody in the foul trouble and you could get points. So to me, I just like that style of basketball more than just, jacking up 3s all day. But football, you literally can't tackle like you used to tackle. And I'm not talking about defenseless receivers. The idea, again, of putting weight on a quarterback is ridiculous to me. Where you hit a quarterback now with the Brady rule is ridiculous to me. The whatever the hell pass interference is has always been a problem. I know people like to highlight that, but no one ever knows what pass interference is anymore. The contact on a receiver, the defenseless receiver, the helmet-to-helmet rule is the most pick and choose your spots rule in the history of sports, because you see guys get dinged helmet to helmet on so many different plays. Whenever they show a replay of whether it's a fumble, whether it's a guy even getting tackled out of bounds, whatever it is, you see Jalen Hurts on quarterback sneaks, heads down, going across the middle, ding, ding, ding across the helmet, and still nothing. And I just think the game has changed from the essence of it so much that if you even took someone that didn't watch football in 10 years ago to now, it's a completely different game. And I like the way it was. I understand it's safer now, and that should be a huge goal. But I think we have come to a point where we've gotten ridiculous with the rules. When you say you can't land on a quarterback, that's like, okay, fine. Like, it's bonkers to me.
So one rule drove me nuts. I was watching Dallas at Indy on Sunday night. I watched it wasn't live when it happened, but I was rewatch the game when I get home, and the CeeDee Lamb touchdown where it looks like he's tackled, but his body never touched the ground or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, come on, like, are we really gonna say he's not down there? Like they do not favor defenders at all. No wonder why no one blitzes, because when you blitz, you're going full speed at somebody and you're gonna hit them. And again, everybody goes, well, oh, it's great Tom Brady plays till he's 45. I'm like, yeah, I guess why he doesn't get hit. Nobody gets hit anymore. The people who get hit are the Lamar Jacksons, the Josh Allens, the Jalen Hurtses. By the way, Josh Allen pointed out something very interesting to me last week when I interviewed him. I asked him, why do you think people are against quarterbacks that run? He couldn't give me an answer. He goes, he said, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird, right? He said you get 15 yards and people are upset by that. I mean, think about that. You're running like Jalen Hurts. Now it's not a big deal because he throws the football really well. But remember, everybody hated how he got touchdowns. I'm like, you hate points.
Here's my thing. I like Carson Wentz running was dumb. Like when he would run, it was dumb. It was just stupid because he would take hits. He wouldn't get rid of the football. He would he'd fight for the extra right. He would act like he wouldn't even act like a running back. He'd act like a fullback. Like, dude, what are you doing? Jalen Hurts, 9 times out of 10 is making the smart read, the smart play. He's getting out of bounds, or he's throwing the football away, or he's sliding, or he's diving out of bounds. Like when he runs, I think he runs with great awareness. There are quarterbacks that are reckless. I don't think he's reckless. Few and far between do I see Jalen Hurts take off and there be an open receiver 10 yards in front of him that he could have just dunked the ball down to, or dink the ball down to. There was one play in the Packers game where he had Miles Sanders open on the sideline about 10 yards in front of him.
Yeah, Gainwell open too.
Gainwell. Okay, maybe it was Gainwell, not Miles Sanders. And he had him open and he decided to run and get the first down, still get the first down, but he took an unnecessary hit. I don't like the coach I don't like Nick Sirianni putting Jalen Hurts in as many of those, first and goal from the one scenarios where it's a quarterback sneak. I think your first attempt every time should be hand the ball to a running back, see if they can score it, rather than have Jalen Hurts dive head first over the line of scrimmage trying to get the goal, trying to get the touchdown.
It's not like Jalen Hurts is. I think everybody still criticizes it. Remember the RG3 play from 10 years ago when Washington was playing Baltimore? It looked like he was going to go out of balance, and he cut back in the middle of the field. And that's when he injured the knee. Yeah. Like the first injury of the knee.
Yes. And I'm thinking to myself, then they came back. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. Like I can't believe he actually came back on the field then. I'm like, what a stupid play. What a stupid way. By the way, Kyle Shanahan was on that staff. By the way, Kyle Shanahan finally over 500 as a head coach.
Hey, what a great day.
I love Kyle Shanahan, but man, did they overrate him.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. So anyway, going a little bit off topic here, but it's just weird, right? You criticize the running quarterbacks for now they're smart at doing it. Like everybody gets upset. Like Alan told me, everybody gets upset when he lowers his shoulder and just bullies down the guy and gets an extra 5 yards. I'm like, but the guy's 6'6", like 260.
Yeah. He's not a small guy.
Yeah,
I would still rather not see my quarterback do that. I admire that they want to do it, but you better come out on the other side okay. That's the thing. I love that you're fighting for yards. I love that. I love the mentality. A, protect the football. B, protect yourself. Okay. And I don't want especially if you're Josh Allen, especially if you're Jalen Hurts, if you're getting MVP consideration at any point, you don't want that guy taking that big hit. You don't want that guy getting hit when he doesn't need to at any time. And even though you're huge, even though you're a monster like Josh Allen is, please, by all means, protect the football and protect yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's a concern now, right? It's not that Jalen Hurts is a top 15 quarterback. He's a top 5 quarterback.
Yes, definitely.
He is the MVP frontrunner. You cannot win the Super Bowl without Jalen Hurts. I know. No disrespect to Gardner Minshew because they could do it. We've seen this story play out,
right?
But no, I don't think you need Jalen Hurts. Like your best chance to win the Super Bowl is with a top 5 quarterback in this league, and Jalen Hurts is one of those guys, and the Eagles are absolutely loaded. So, yeah, like you do not want to see him get hurt. That's my biggest fear Sunday because that MetLife Stadium turf is a joke.
I am all for all grass stadiums all the time. I am all for it. I don't like turf. I've run on turf. I installed turf in my backyard because I have a small city backyard and it's better for my daughter to run around on. But when it comes to everything else, I'm all grass all the time, man. I hate any semblance of it. The worst for me, I remember going across the field in Indianapolis, like I forget what it's called, next turf with the pellets.
Yeah. There's pellets all over the place.
You couldn't walk across that field. Walk across the field, Jeff, without getting pellets in your shoes. It's annoying as hell. And then we get instant replays of the pellets going up and getting in the guy's eyes. It's ridiculous. Now, the soft tissue injuries, the turning ankles, everything like that. I hate turf. And you just hope that your guys come out on the other side of the game healthy and ready to play for the next week.
First time I ever played on turf, this was 10th grade, right? And so we're doing warm-ups, and I'm like, why do my legs feel funny? and I'm like, this is the same thing as grass, right? And it wasn't. Like, it was softer to land on. But I'm like,
sure.
But I'm like, if it's something minor like that, I can't imagine going as a pro athlete full speed. I think eventually every stadium's going to be grass. Like, remember 30 years ago, we thought all stadiums were going to be turf?
Oh, yeah. And have roofs?
Yeah, and and people still want a roof in Philadelphia. I'm like, I don't want Philadelphia to ever get a roof. I don't want a Super Bowl. I could care less if Philadelphia gets a Super Bowl.
Right. What was it? If you talk to a volleyball player, and it's not this drastic, but it's definitely a difference. Talk to a volleyball player that plays on hardwood. Talk to a volleyball player that plays on the beach.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not that drastic, but it is a very different concept. Again, not that drastic, but you still got to prepare yourself to play on that surface. And I think NFL players have to do that something similar to what guys like that have to do.
Well, I'll say it this way. If I ever played volleyball, I'd be diving on the beach. I don't think I'd be diving on the hardwood.
Now, come on, man. Sell out for the team.
Not on the hardwood. Like, even when I play basketball, when I was taking the charge, I'm like, this is going to hurt. I'm like, I don't know what's going to hurt more. A body landing on me or me actually landing the back of my head on that hardwood floor. It's not fun. Like, there's a difference between sacrificing your body on grass and turf compared to the hardwood.
Oh, no, I was the kid on the ground all the time, man. I was diving for every loose ball, man. I was a monster. I was a warthog, man.
I would have hated you.
You probably would have hated me because you know why? You would have got my elbow in your teeth in the boards. No, I love that stuff, man. Because I knew no one else was going to do it, so I was like, that's mine. Oh, that's my ball. Ball or nobody's ball. How about that?
I used to be the jerk because I would do it too, but I would say, you know why you do it? Because you're like me. You're not that good.
Exactly. Gotta prove my worth to this team somehow.
Yeah, exactly. It's instead of telling people that they're worthless or they don't have anything, you gotta do something to stand out. You're right, and that was always the play. But before I let you go, Mark, I do have to ask you. There's no way the Eagles lose this division, right? There's no way.
No, there's no way the Eagles lose this division. There's no way the Eagles are not the number 1 seed going into the playoffs. And I had this conversation. I talked about it earlier today, but I had this conversation with a buddy of mine. We were texting back and forth. And he's like, I don't know if I believe in this Eagles team. I go, what do you mean? And he's like Super Bowl. And like for me, I love this team. I absolutely love this team. Jalen Hurts, I am dazzled by. Like, how do you not root for Jalen Hurts, right? Look, I know Jonathan Gannon gets a lot of criticism. I'm included in that criticism. I know you have your criticism of him. We just talked about it. Seth Joyner certainly is the king of the criticism when it comes to Jonathan Gannon criticism. But for me, I love this team. They're great. This is a defense that's a top 10 defense. This is an offense. This is a top 2 offense. This is a quarterback that's an MVP candidate. Miles Sanders is having a career year. You got the 2 best corners in the NFL. You're 11-1. And people are like, well, can we talk about – did you hear Nick Sirianni get asked about the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I did see that yesterday. I'm like, what?
Now, Jeff McClain asked the question. This is not a knock on Jeff. Jeff does an amazing job. Yeah.
Jeff, I will read any one of Jeff's articles because
he's phenomenal.
They all got something in there.
And I think the question, like, he was going down the path of, do you think about the Super Bowl? And also the path of how good is it to have guys with Super Bowl experience on your coaching staff and in the locker room? And I think that was more the point of his question, but the way it came off was, do you ever think about the Super Bowl? And Nick Sirianni was like, not for a second. And that got me thinking about, well, hold on a second. This team's 11-1, MVP quarterback, great defense, great running back, all this stuff, career year running back, all this stuff is great. But we don't talk about the Super Bowl yet. I felt like in the year with Carson Wentz in 2017, we were talking about him being an MVP. I don't know if we were talking about them winning a Super Bowl, even when they won 9 in a row. So it's like the Super Bowl conversation or championship conversation in general, whether it's the Phillies, Sixers, Flyers, oh God, Eagles. I feel like we always are. I feel like in Philadelphia, we're always the last to the party of starting the conversation about a championship.
I think that's what made 2004 so much fun because they were so close and you knew it. You knew that team was going.
Yeah,
even
that was the only time.
I think even with the T.O. injury, I still said they're still the best team. I mean, like they've been in the NFC. It was getting over that hump, and they did. And I'm like, okay, that's when I started getting nervous because I'm like, okay, now they're here. What's going to happen? Mm-hmm. Because they're playing the team that they could have easily been that whole run. Like everybody says, oh, Patriots dynasty, first dynasty. I'm like, yeah, the Eagles are literally like a game away from being the Patriots.
It's amazing,
all the time. It's crazy, but. Tone's telling me I gotta wrap it up, Mark.
Oh, come on, Tone.
Come on, man. I mean, you know what? Put us on with McMullen.
Just real quick. I don't know if anyone introduces me better than Tone introduces me. Like the way he talks to me up before the segment when I come up. It's great stuff, man. It's great.
Yeah, I need Tone DeShields to actually hype up our basketball team, but more importantly, hype up Coach Kerr.
Definitely.
Tone says he loves you, by the way.
Back at you, Tone. Back at you.
So Mark Farzetta, you can find him on the Farsi Show every day, 6 to 7?
6 to 7 live, yeah.
Yep, you can find him live. You can always stream it, by the way. You don't have to get up at 6 o'clock to watch Mark Farzetta.
Yeah, just after 7, after Jeff's off. After Jeff's done.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, also you can find Mark Farzetta on the JAKIB Media pregame show, which, by the way, I do recommend you watch live.
Yeah, we have a good time. We always have a good time on that show.
All right, Mark, once again, always a pleasure, my friend. I'll have to get you on but probably another week or two, and we can talk glass half empty. We can talk TGIF. We can talk whatever the heck you want.
Oh, my God. TJ, that's we missed out on that conversation this time around, friend.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know what? You're the one who brought it up last time, so it's all
That's correct. That's guilty. Totally guilty.
All right, Mark. I'll talk to you soon.
See you, man. Thanks very much. See you guys.
Yeah, see you, bye. All right, and I don't have much time here, so I guess I got to wrap it up. Burst 365 with Joe McDowell and John McMullen coming up next. I got Jody Mack coming on tomorrow, by the way. So you're going to get a double dose of Jody Mack tomorrow. Also, today on CBSSports.com is going to drop this afternoon my by the numbers column, and it's going to be on A.J. Brown and how he is on pace to have the best first season for a wide receiver in Eagles history. Yes, better than T.O., better than Irving Fryer. You will not want to miss that. So once again, thank you for tuning in to Good Morning NFC East. My name is Jeff Kerr. You guys have a good day.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win.